Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to the top 10 smoking guns that ended trials. So I actually had to Google what a smoking gun was, and it's a piece of evidence that is just so overwhelmingly conclusive that it's just, you've just nabbed the person red-handed. That's it, hook, line and sinker, case closed. So, I mean, I'm struggling to think of any that I've heard of. Like, I don't really follow major, like at least historical cases that have gone to court. I haven't followed much, but there's bound to be a lot of cases out there where, you know, it's been really close on both sides, the prosecution and the defense, and then suddenly they find one thing and it's like, boom.
The gloves didn't fit. Remember these words: if it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most
Has to be the OJ situation.
significant pieces of evidence that turned the tides either in favor of or against infamous defendants.
I think he realized the jig was up. He never thought that he left physical evidence.
Number 10, audio recordings. Depp v. Heard. The defamation case between Hollywood actors and former partners Johnny Depp and Amber Heard centered around a 2018 opinion piece published in The Washington Post.
He decided to sue his ex-wife personally over an article she wrote for The Washington Post. And this time, he was taking the fight back home.
In the article, Heard asserted that she had been a victim of domestic violence during their marriage. However, Depp sued her, insisting that he was the one subjected to violence at her hands.
So much of the case was put to the jury as being whether or not Johnny Depp would be the sort of person, or is the sort of person, that would ever lay a finger against another woman.
A crucial moment during the trial was the playing of an audio recording where the couple argued about a past physical altercation that left Depp's finger injured. On the tape, Heard appears to acknowledge hitting Depp and berates him for complaining about it.
But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
This incriminating tape likely influenced the jury's decision to hold Heard liable for defaming Depp, quote, with actual malice. Number 9, Terry Sanderson.
I didn't hurt you. I didn't punch you. I was hitting you. Doesn't she realize that was the same thing? Do you remember how big this story was back? This was last year. It was everywhere. People would camp outside the courthouse. It was crazy.
Sanderson's post-incident travel, Gwyneth Paltrow ski crash trial. In 2023, actress and lifestyle entrepreneur Gwyneth Paltrow faced a civil lawsuit from retired Utah doctor Terry Sanderson.
Oscar-winning actress Gwyneth Paltrow in court being sued, accused of violently crashing into a man during a family ski trip in Park City, Utah.
Sanderson alleged that in 2016, Paltrow collided with him on a ski slope, resulting in permanent traumatic brain injury and severe emotional distress, among other things.
Oh my God.
Paltrow's legal team challenged Sanderson's claims by presenting evidence of the numerous vacations he took after the supposed incident, as well as social media posts depicting him in good spirits.
You posted a lot on social media?
Relative to other people, it didn't seem like I did. Very little.
All of these pictures are from your personal Facebook after the collision.
Although Sanderson maintained that these trips were part of his recovery, the jury disagreed with him. They ultimately found him responsible for the accident and awarded Paltrow the requested $1 in damages.
I believe she thinks she has the truth. I believe she thinks that. But I know. I absolutely know. And I said I would not bring any falsehoods. I'm going to tell the truth, and I did.
Number 8.
That guy was an idiot. What an idiot. I'm surprised his lawyer didn't, like, before cases start, there's usually a phase called discovery where, you know, each set of lawyers will go and hunt for information that will help them in their case. You would have thought his lawyers would have said, mate, before we go to court, delete all of these photos of you on vacation. If you're claiming that you've had brain damage, that you can't, you know, your life has been affected permanently. Oh my God.
Handwriting analysis, the Lindbergh kidnapping trial. The 1935 trial of Bruno Richard Hauptmann for the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby was one of the first cases hailed as the trial of the century.
Despite the media attention, the police investigation quickly stalled.
Hauptmann had been arrested after a significant portion of the ransom money was traced to him. However, he claimed that the money belonged to a former business partner who owed him a debt.
Recent transactions are dominated by $10 and $20 gold certificates. Gold certificates are discovered in his home and in his pockets.
Perhaps the most damning evidence against Hauptmann was handwriting analysis that seemed to suggest Hauptmann had written the ransom note. During the trial, 8 handwriting experts took to the stand to testify to that. Despite the evidence against him being largely circumstantial, Hauptmann was convicted and sentenced to death.
Hauptmann is found guilty and sentenced to death.
Since then, some have raised doubts about his guilt.
Yeah.
Number 7, a pajama top.
I mean, obviously back in those days, that's probably all they had to go by, but to condemn someone to death because their handwriting matched, I don't know, man. That seems quite flimsy. But I guess if that's all they had to go by.
The United States v. Jeffrey R. McDonald. In February 1970, U.S. Army Captain Jeffrey R. McDonald reported the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 daughters by 4 intruders.
It was Jeffrey McDonald who made the 911 call. He later claimed his family was attacked by 4 intruders.
Despite evidence implicating McDonald, the Army dismissed the case, but it was later reopened in civilian court. The prosecution focused on McDonald's pajama top, which he claimed to have used as a defense, bearing 48 holes allegedly from an ice pick.
Jeffrey McDonald has always maintained his innocence. Although his case has had more time in court than just about any other criminal case in American history, no new evidence, including DNA, has validated his claim.
However, investigators found the holes too neat to have occurred during motion, suggesting that the cloth was stationary, likely covering his wife's body when the punctures occurred. They demonstrated that if the pajama was folded correctly, the 48 holes could have been made by 21 thrusts, the exact number of wounds on McDonald's wife.
The FBI had also found that there was no evidence of a break-in, and all the weapons in the assault had come from the house.
Consequently, McDonald was convicted of the murders. Number 6, video of Gage Grosskreutz holding gun. The trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. The Kyle Rittenhouse case was a highly controversial one that ignited intense political debates. In August 2021, Rittenhouse shot 3 men during a protest against police brutality in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
In court today, jurors for the first time hearing from the man who was shot by Kyle Rittenhouse and survived.
2 of the men died, while the third, Gage Grosskreutz, sustained severe injuries. Rittenhouse argued that he was safeguarding local businesses from violence and only fired in self-defense after the men drew their guns on him. When Grosskreutz took the stand at trial, he was confronted with footage showing him pointing his gun at Rittenhouse.
What was going through your mind? That I was going to die?
Although Grosskreutz admitted to being armed, he insisted that he had no intention of shooting Rittenhouse. Nevertheless, the jury sided with the defendant's self-defense plea and acquitted him of all charges.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Kyle Rittenhouse, trembling with emotion as the court clerk read the jury's verdict.
Number 5, incriminating.
Man, I don't really know much about what happened there, that case, but that name does ring a bell. Like, it was a big thing, wasn't it? When it was, in court. Do you guys think it was the right decision? I mean, I'm probably risking starting a war in the comment section, but, based on what you saw, do you believe that Rittenhouse was right to be, found not guilty?
Text messages, the Alex Jones defamation trial. For years, Alex Jones spread falsehoods about the tragic Sandy Hook shooting, suggesting that it was staged and accusing victims and their families of being actors. As a result, many affected families sued Jones for defamation and won.
Robert Parker weeps in a Connecticut courtroom after a jury ordered conspiracy theorist Alex Jones to pay him $120 million in damages for repeatedly claiming that the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was a hoax.
During his deposition, Jones had claimed that he couldn't find any text messages on his phone about the incident. However, at trial, it was revealed that Jones's own lawyers had accidentally sent 2 years' worth of text messages related to Sandy Hook to the lawyer representing one of the victim's parents.
No way. Now that's an incredible error. I mean, how do you make such a mistake like that? That's insane. That is
So 2 days ago, it fell free and clear into my possession. And that is how I know you lied to me when you said you didn't have text messages about Sandy Hook. Did you know that?
Needless to say, this came as a rude shock to him. In the end, Jones was ordered to pay the family nearly $50 million in compensatory and punitive damages.
After a resounding rebuke, the InfoWars host was ordered to pay an additional $45.2 million in punitive damages to the parents of a Sandy Hook shooting victim.
Number 4. Falsify.
That is just an insane allegation to make. You know, you've lost your child in a horrific tragedy. And you've got this guy who's on social media with probably millions of followers saying that you didn't in fact lose your kid and you're an actor. When you buried your kid, you literally were at the funeral. That is just, it's an insane thing to do. Like, even if you believe that, which I think is crazy, just
documents, the United States v. Holmes. Through her company Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes promised to revolutionize blood testing by using just a few drops of blood to detect several ailments.
The goal is to empower the individual. We believe strongly that the future of health...
Whenever I hear her talk, I always think this is just very strange. There's just something off about it. Like she's fake, like she's putting it on. Like, listen to this.
Blood testing by using just a few drops of blood to detect several ailments.
The goal is to empower the individual. We believe strongly that the future of health...
Even look at the guy's face as he's listening to her talk. Look at his face.
To empower the individual. We believe strongly that the future of healthcare is in enabling the individual to have the information that they need to take ownership of their health.
It's like she's trying to sound as deep as she can. I don't know why.
However, these claims were inaccurate, and Holmes attempted to validate them by forging documents to sway investors. Two particular sets of these documents played pivotal roles in her trial. The first, a counterfeit endorsement from pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, falsely suggested that they had endorsed Theranos' technology.
Remember those logos that Elizabeth Holmes admitted she put on pharmaceutical company lab reports and then sent to prospective business partners like Walgreens? It was Pfizer and Schering-Plough. Well, it turns out she did more than just change add the logos.
The second set of documents presented inflated revenue projections of $40 million through purported contracts with drug companies, which were later proven to be bogus. These documents were all the jury needed to convict Holmes of fraud and sentence her to over 11 years in prison.
Today, she entered the minimum security federal women's prison camp located in Bryan, Texas.
Number 3. Kennel video. The murder trial.
Honestly, the things people do for money, you know, such an elaborate scam. You know, just get a job.
Trial of Alec Murdaugh. A member of South Carolina's prominent Murdaugh family, Alec Murdaugh became the prime suspect after his wife Maggie and their son Paul were killed in June 2021. For several months, Murdaugh claimed that he was not present when the murders took place.
Murdaugh claimed he didn't go to the family's kennels that night until he found his wife and son's bodies.
But an unexpected source, his own son Paul, unknowingly helped secure a guilty verdict from beyond the grave. Moments before his tragic death, Paul made a video in the family's dog kennel, which captured Murdaugh's voice, thus shattering his supposed alibi.
Prosecutors playing that video for him again in court.
Can you point out Alec Murdaugh, the person whose voice you recognize in this video in this courtroom, please? Sitting right there in a gray jacket.
Prosecutors presented this incriminating footage in court, following which Murdaugh changed his story but still maintained his innocence. However, the jury was already convinced. They deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict.
I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life. Those sentences will run consecutive.
Number 2. Bite marks.
One thing about America that, you know, I kind of wish we had here, like, life actually means life. Like here, you know, I actually saw an example of a guy who got given life, but he was let out after 14 years. 14 years is not a life sentence. I mean, especially when it comes to things like murder, you know, I'm all for like rehabilitation and things like that, but if you've brutally murdered somebody, no.
Ted Bundy's first murder trial. Throughout the 1970s, Ted Bundy rained terror on women in the U.S., claiming the lives of at least 30 individuals. Although he had killed several victims prior, Bundy's first murder trial was for the 1978 deaths of Margaret Elizabeth Bowman and Lisa Janet Levy, two Florida State University students.
There was no doubt that when he was arrested, he was fearful of what was coming. We had strong belief that he had committed the sorority sister murders.
Before taking her life, Bundy had bitten deeply into Levy's flesh, leaving a very visible bite mark. This would become key physical evidence during his trial. Two forensic odontologists seemingly matched the bite impressions to castings of Bundy's teeth, which they presented to the jury.
Whoever made this mark in the skin, in the flesh, had crooked teeth.
While this evidence was crucial in securing Bundy's conviction, bite mark analysis has since been proven as unreliable and shown to have resulted in several wrongful convictions.
People that were board certified did not agree about what a bite mark was. If a science isn't a science and it's not reproducible and it's not reliable, courts of law should not allow it in.
Absolutely.
Before we continue,
I think that's why they stopped using lie detectors as evidence, because you can easily, I think you can tamper with those. You can fake them.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Bloodied Gloves. The People versus O.J. Simpson.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Those were the famous words uttered by Johnny Cochran, one of O.J. Simpson's defense lawyers during his 1995 murder trial. Simpson stood accused of murdering his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman. At the crime scene, detectives found a pair of bloodied gloves, which they believed Simpson had worn during the murders.
Your Honor, at this time, the people would ask that Mr. Simpson step forward and try on the glove recovered at Bundy as well as the glove recovered at Rockingham.
Lead prosecutor Marcia Clark rejected the idea of Simpson trying on the gloves in court, but her assistant prosecutor Christopher Darden proceeded with it, anticipating a, quote, big moment. His expectations were dashed, however, when the gloves didn't seem to fit Simpson's hands. The jury later adhered to Cochran's words and infamously acquitted Simpson of the murders.
Back in the courtroom, Simpson smiled, and his attorneys were obviously pleased and relieved. The prosecution team sat stone-faced.
Do you think any of these cases would have had a different outcome without these smoking guns of evidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Alec Murdaugh's alibi potential.
What an interesting video, honestly. I mean, to think that somebody like gloves, because you could easily argue that perhaps OJ had deliberately worn gloves that were too small. I know this is, this is assuming that OJ is like some kind of criminal mastermind or was a criminal mastermind. He could have perhaps bought a pair of gloves that were deliberately too small so that in the event that if he did do the alleged crime, if those gloves were recovered, then he could have his lawyers cite that the gloves were too small. I mean, it's unrealistic that he was planning that far ahead, but it's an argument that you could make. So I guess you have to give it to the lawyer who coined the phrase, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit, because it was so memorable that the jury, the members of the jury, it stuck in their heads, and it just, as they were, discussing their verdict, their decision, it was just probably the key thing that I'm guessing a large amount of the jurors were just constantly bringing up. It was brilliant. That lawyer, honestly, whether you agree or disagree with the verdict of the decision, of that case, that lawyer did a stellar job. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.